Dear students, we shall continue digestive system with pancreas. The pancreas is a soft lobulated, elongated exocrine and endocrine gland. It lies on the upper part of the posterior abdominal wall. The pancreas is digestive gland and it produces, with external secretion, pancreatic juice that enters the duodenum across the pancreatic duct. The pancreatic juice helps in the digestion of lipids, carbohydrates and proteins. With internal secretions produces glucagon and insulin which enter into the blood circulation. The pancreas lies more or less horizontally on the posterior abdominal wall. Its right part lies across the bodies of L1 to L2 vertebrae. It lies in the epigastric and left hypochondriac regions. It is located posterior to the stomach. It extends from the duodenum to the spleen. The pancreas is J-shaped. It is subdivided into head, neck, body and tail. It is located within the curve of the duodenum. From the lower part of the head, the hook-like uncinate process projects upwards and to the left behind superior mesenteric vessels. Between head and body is pancreatic notch. The head of the pancreas lies in the concavity of the C-shaped duodenal loop in front of the L2 vertebra. Anterior surface of the head of the pancreas is related from above downward to gastroduodenal artery, transverse colon and jejunum. Posterior surface of the head of the pancreas is related to inferior vena cava, left renal vein, bile duct and right crus of diaphragm. Uncinate process is related to anteriorly to superior mesenteric vessels and posteriorly to the abdominal aorta. The neck of the pancreas is a slightly constricted part of the gland which connects the head with the body. It is directed forward, upwards and to the left. Its anterior surface is covered with peritoneum. It is related to the pylorus of the stomach. The posterior surface of the neck of the pancreas is related to the superior mesenteric vessels. Behind the neck, superior mesenteric vein joins the splenic veins to form the hepatic portal vein. The body of the pancreas is triangular and has three surfaces: anterior, posterior and inferior. The anterior surface faces anterosuperiorly and it is covered with the peritoneum. The posterior surface is devoid of peritoneum. The inferior surface of the pancreas faces downward. The superior border separates the anterior from the posterior surfaces. The anterior border separates the anterior from the inferior surfaces. The inferior border separates the posterior from the inferior surfaces of the pancreas. We have one more detail. When the neck continues with the body, on the superior surface we have tuber omental, a ventral prominence elevated by the abdominal aorta. On the left picture you can see the anterior and posterior surface of the body of the pancreas. The blue color represents the anterior surface and the yellow color represents the posterior surface. The anterior surface of the body of the pancreas faces anterosuperiorly into the omental bursa. It is covered with the peritoneum. It is related to the posterior surface of the stomach. It forms part of the bed of the stomach. The posterior surface of the body of the pancreas is related to the aorta and origin of the superior mesenteric artery, left kidney and left suprarenal gland, and splenic vein, which usually lies in the groove below the level of the splenic artery. The inferior surface of the body of the pancreas is covered by peritoneum and is related to duodenojejunal flexure, jejunum and left colic flexure. In left picture we have sagittal section and you can see aortic mesenteric angle. In this yellow circle we have origin of the superior mesenteric artery. The superior mesenteric artery descends in front of abdominal aorta and between superior mesenteric artery and aorta, we have three structures. Superiorly, we have left renal vein. In the middle, we have uncinate process of pancreas, and inferiorly, we have horizontal part of duodenum. Look now, between superior mesenteric artery and aorta, we have one blood vessel, left renal vein, and two organs, uncinate process of pancreas and horizontal part of duodenum. The tail of the pancreas is left extremity of the body. It is usually extends forward through the splenorenal ligament. Anterior surface of the tail of the pancreas is covered by the pancreatico-splenic ligament, and posterior surface is covered by the splenorenal ligament. The major part of the pancreas are the secondary retroperitoneal, only the tail is the intraperitoneal part. From the tail of the pancreas to the hilum of the spleen, we have two layers of the pancreatico-splenic ligament. This pancreatico-splenic ligament transmits and protects splenic vessels. The pancreas is composed of two different types of glandular cells. The main mass is exocrine cells, embedded in which are islets of endocrine cells. The exocrine part produces pancreatic juice, which flows into the duodenum. The endocrine part of the pancreas is composed of about 1 million pancreatic islets of Langerhans. The endocrine part releases hormones into the blood. Important hormones are insulin and glucagon. The main pancreatic duct begins in the tail of the pancreas and passes to the right across the body. Along its course, it receives small ducts from the numerous lobules. Within the head, the main pancreatic duct turns inferiorly and comes into close relationship with the bile duct. The two ducts enter the posteromedial wall of the descending part of the duodenum. Usually, the pancreatic and bile ducts unite to form a short but dilated hepatopancreatic ampulla or ampulla of Vater. The ampulla opens across common duct into duodenum at the summit of the major duodenal papilla. Superiorly from the pancreatic duct, we have accessory pancreatic duct. The accessory pancreatic duct is smaller. It drains part of the head of the pancreas and is variable. The duct begins in the lower part of the head and runs upward to the pancreas as completely separate duct to open into the descending part of the duodenum above the main duct on the minor duodenal papilla. There is a sphincter around the terminal part of the main duct called a pancreatic duct sphincter. There is also one around the hepatopancreatic ampulla called the hepatopancreatic sphincter or sphincter of Oddi. These sphincters control the flow of bile and pancreatic juice into the duodenum. Why we have two pancreatic ducts? Because the pancreas develops as a ventral and dorsal bud in the ventral and dorsal foregut mesenteries and therefore starts intraperitoneally. The pancreas originates as two buds which merge during prenatal development. After that, the ventral bud rotates from right to the left. The smaller ventral bud rotates clockwise to become dorsal and associate with the dorsal pancreatic bud. Now the buds fuse to become secondary peritoneal, except for the tail which lies in the splenorenal ligament. The original ventral bud is now called the uncinate process. The ventral bud forms the inferior part of the head of the pancreas and its uncinate process, and the dorsal bud form the superior part of the head, the body, and the tail of the pancreas. The branches of celiac trunk, gastroduodenal artery and splenic artery, and branch of superior mesenteric artery form anastomosis with each other. The anterior and posterior superior pancreatico-duodenal artery, which are the branches of the gastroduodenal artery, anastomosis with the branches of the inferior pancreatico-duodenal artery, and supply the head of the pancreas. The anastomosis between anterior and posterior branches form anterior and posterior pancreatico-duodenal arterial arcades. Pancreatic branches of the splenic artery, like dorsal pancreatic artery, greater pancreatic artery, caudal pancreatic artery, and inferior pancreatic artery, supply the body and tail of the pancreas. The pancreatic veins drain into the portal, splenic, and superior mesenteric veins, but most of them empty into the splenic vein. The lymphatics from the pancreas follow the arteries and drain mainly into the celiac nodes and superior mesenteric nodes. The pancreas is innervated from celiac plexus. Parasympathetic fibers descend across the vagus nerve. Sympathetic fibers descend across the greater splanchnic nerve to celiac ganglion. The sympathetic and parasympathetic nerve fibers reach the gland along its arteries from celiac plexus and superior mesenteric plexus. The sympathetic supply is vasomotor, whereas the parasympathetic supply controls the pancreatic secretion. You have to recognize position of pancreas, the green color, and duodenum, the yellow color. Now look at the pancreatic duct inside the pancreas. We finished now pancreas. If you have questions, you can send me email.